Hey everybody, it's Trevor here with the channel where every day is range day. And this week we have another viewer requested video on adjusting the Kydex retention on your Esstac KYWI mag pouches. Let's check it out. Now if you're familiar with the channel, you know that we've done a couple videos on these mag pouches from Esstac known as the KYWIs, which stands for Kydex Wedge Insert. And as you can see, it is a nylon-based magazine pouch with a Kydex retention wedge inside. That is what locks your magazines in place. Here's an AR mag pouch broken down so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. This is the nylon exterior that kind of holds everything together, and this is the Kydex piece that ultimately provides the retention for your magazines. We've done a handful of videos on these different mag pouches, initial impressions, full reviews on the AR and pistol mag pouches, and most recently on the Day-It-On plate carrier holder that you can see here, which has 3 across the front to put on a plate carrier. Something you also have heard me talk about with these mag pouches, especially when you first get them, is their initial retention. I always say it's a little bit stiff getting these in and out of the carrier when you first get them, and they do tend to break in a little bit once you've had a magazine in there and started using them. But right out of the box, man, they're just a little tough to get the magazine in there. It's not a super big deal for me, but it is pretty tough, and some people might want to be able to adjust the retention on these Kydex pieces so it's just a little easier, or maybe even a little harder to get the magazines out. Again, it's just this nylon pouch, and there is no bungee cord or other elastic wrapping to keep your magazines in there. It's just a little pinching action caused by this little bump here in the Kydex. So for one reason or another, we did have a viewer request on adjusting the retention on these Kydex inserts. So taking a look at it, basically what we'll be doing is altering the shape of this insert. You can see this little bend here is where it pinches on the magazine, and that's where the bulk of your retention is going to come from. When you pull the magazine out, you get this pinch here in the middle. You basically have to overcome that little bit of springiness to get the magazine in and out of the pouch. Again, this insert's out of the magazine pouch itself, and when you have it in there, the nylon makes it a little bit more resistant. So taking a look at how we're going to adjust these, it's important to understand that Kydex itself is what is known as a thermoplastic. This is a rigid material commonly used in holsters, and thermoplastics behave differently when exposed to heat. Under normal conditions or room temperature here, the Kydex is pretty rigid, still a little flexible, it's not going to be brittle and snap, but it holds its shape pretty well. You can't really bend it too much without risking breaking it. If you want to make some adjustments to it, you need to add a little bit of heat. This is where the thermo part comes in. Under heat, the Kydex behaves a little bit more plastically, so you can kind of deform it and mold it around without it breaking. And then when it cools down, it'll harden back to shape. So what we'll be doing is heating this piece of Kydex up, and you can use a couple of different methods, and basically adjusting the severity of this pinch here. You can do that by changing this angle itself, or simply opening the insert a little bit down here at the bottom. Now this is pretty easy to do at home, and you can do it in a couple different ways, but you definitely need a heat source. Of course, you can use a hair dryer or even a heat gun to do this, but today I'll just be using a lighter like you can see here. A couple things to note is that a hair dryer will work pretty well and it's pretty safe. I'm not going to do it on camera just because it's really loud and annoying to listen to. And a heat gun will also work very well and very quickly, but it's important to make sure you don't have the heat gun turned way up, or else you'll start melting this. The same can be said if you're using a flame as if from a lighter. Whenever you're going to be heating this up to adjust the retention on here, you do not want to use the direct flame, aka just like kind of holding the burner on the Kydex. This will kind of mar the finish up and can risk melting and damaging the piece altogether. More so you're after just kind of holding it over the heat to just warm this piece up. You don't want to burn it or melt it. Just heating it up a little bit, and then it'll slowly become flexible. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Just a little bit on here. Taking a look at the retention, I think all we'll really need to adjust on here is the severity of this pinch point right here. And to do that, I'm just gonna put a little bit of heat here on the corners down at the bottom so that this isn't so tight in the middle and kind of opens up just a hair like that. If you have trouble fitting it back in the mag pouch, you might have to straighten these up some, but it should go in pretty easy. So like I said, we'll just start the lighter here, and we're just gonna hold it next to the piece. We want to warm it up, but we don't want to touch the flame to the Kydex itself. Works a little easier if you hold it under it, just to get the heat going, but we'll just start warming it up. Again, we don't want direct contact with the flame. That'll start to melt or even scorch the piece. Could be just a cosmetic finish issue, but some people don't like that, and I wouldn't risk melting my pieces anyway. So we'll just spend a little bit of time here heating this joint up, and eventually when it becomes a little warmer, it's getting there, we'll begin to try and flex the piece. Again, if you do this cold, it's just going to kind of spring back to its original shape, and you're not really going to get any adjustment out of it. And again, the thicker your Kydex, the longer this will take. A heat gun's probably the fastest method, But definitely, again, take care to not burn your piece in doing so. Now we're definitely getting hotter. You can see it's opened up a bunch just from its own weight. And now I can freely kind of bend this joint for a little bit. So this is about where it started. So now you can open it up just a little bit here and kind of hold it. Again, this is where it started, a little more pinched in. So now we'll just open it up. You can see a little side by side here where we started and where it's at now. You can kind of see I got a little scorch mark here, got a little too close with the flame for a little bit. Could just be some soot or something, it'll rub off. Not too bad of a burn there, but again, definitely be careful. And just kind of let this cool off in its new shape. Again, this is opened up quite a bit now, and then we basically just let this cool. And again, it doesn't take too much heat to get this. I can still touch this with my hand. It's definitely warm, but it's not gonna burn me. But of course, use all the regular precautions that you would when playing with fire at home. So this is about cooled down enough now where it's not as rigid anymore. You can see I'm pulling on it and it's beginning to flex and return to its normal shape instead of deforming. Now we're good to test how the retention kind of looks back on this magazine. Barely has a little bit of give when I go to put the magazine in there. So it's definitely opened it up quite a bit. Now we'll try to put it back in the magazine pouch and see how it actually performs. Just another tip and recommendation for doing this, it's definitely 100 times easier to take these Kydex inserts out and put them back in when your holsters are not on a belt or on a plate carrier of some kind. You can try it once and you'll instantly know what I'm talking about. It's way, way easier to just take them off your belt. It's even easier if you have these belt clips off the back too, but you can manage to get something back in here on this Velcro and get them out of there. So now that I have this back in here, you can definitely tell that it's opened up quite a bit from how they normally are. And the magazine goes right in. It still snaps, which means we have good retention. It's not gonna fall out, but it's definitely a whole heck of a lot easier to take it out of here than it just was before I opened it up. That is now adjusted and good to go. Of course, if you did it a little too much or the shape doesn't fit in quite right, you can just pop this back out, hit it with the lighter and mold it to your shape again. That's kind of the nice thing about Kydex. It's a little flexible and a little bit moldable to what your needs could possibly be. And that looks like it's gonna be it for the video this week, guys, on a viewer request of how to adjust the retention on the Kydex inserts for your KYWI mag pouches from Esstac. We went over a quick tutorial on how to do that yourself at home with just a lighter. Even a hairdryer or heat gun would also work as well. In a nutshell, all you gotta do is pop the KYWI insert out of your mag pouch and then heat up the little creases on either the top or the bottom to basically open it up or close it back down if you're looking for less or more retention. We did that today with a lighter. Just be careful not to put too much direct flame on there if you're using it. It could burn or melt the insert. But all we did was heat this little bottom corner up here, open the KYWI just a little bit, pop it back in the mag pouch like so, and now we're good to go. The KYWI is back installed, still has a good snap of retention, but it's a whole heck of a lot easier to take the magazine out when you're going for a reload or something like that, because they are a little stiff from the factory sometimes. Of course, it's important that adequate retention is retained, and if you do loosen this a little too much, your magazine just falls out. Heat it up again, give yourself just a little bit more grab. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like down below, and if you have any questions about adjusting the retention as we discussed in the video today, or if you have other techniques for adjusting your Kydex retention on different pieces of gear, put it down below in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, make sure to subscribe to the channel, where every day is range day. Thank you for watching.